welcome back to the Warhammer Film Club. I'm Dave, joined as always, well, not always, in fact, because this is a hot, fresh, and funky, slightly tweaked format for the semi-regular. I'm the only one that would come back on the regular basis with my good friend Jordan Sorcery, as Hector Health and Safety Frog calls him, Gordon Saucepanry. We're back again. I think we realised we got to give the people what they want, and what they want is you and me getting a bit pretentious, waxing lyrical about films that aren't very good, but we have a soft spot for them, and some of the audience have a soft spot for them as well. So I think it's always nice to get our teeth into something, but also just to give these films a little bit of love if they deserve it. So yeah, Jordan, what are we talking about today in terms of films that deserve love?
Sure, and I think that's a lovely intro. I appreciate that, Dave. And yeah, we're going to be getting into it, but I think you're going to catch some flack later in the season for films for describing some of the films we're going to be covering as in need of love or not having received enough love. But today's, I think you were bang on because we're doing the 1995 version of Judge Dredd.
Yes,
Slyvester Stallone, right? Yeah, the best one, as everyone agrees. I'm almost certain. Yes. I must have read that right somewhere. But yeah, I mean, this was came out at a time before people had seen what could be done with Dredd, and yes, an urban version of the character that would win hearts and minds. This was quite a different affair. This was much more. Let's make a Stallone film and paint it a coat of Judge Dredd in many ways, right? But I think, and we'll get into it, right? There's a lot. There is a lot to like about this film. There are some really cool things, and things that were a noble effort.
So, I've not really ever read any 2000 AD. I've not really read any Dredd, but when I was a kid, I had the Judge Dredd Encyclopedia, which is, I think, a yellow and red book.
Right.
So I kind of poured over that without the wider context of understanding satire, because I'm a kid from a small town. I don't understand just people in cool outfits, essentially. But I definitely rented the film more than 5 or 6 times as a kid, and really enjoyed it. And slight tangent, this film holds a really nice little sweet spot in our household, because when I first when I first met my now wife on Tinder, of all places, the classiest place to meet your future wife, we were just chatting films, movies, music, whatever, and I asked what her favorite comic book film was, and she said Dredd, and I said the good one or the bad one, and she said there are no bad Judge Dredd films, and I thought, check, please. Yes, that's the one for me. So we had at our wedding, we had a little table of stuff that was kind of like things that brought us together, things that made us resonate early on, and we had we had a Judge Dredd Laserdisc on there, and it was much to the confusion of many people. Of why the fuck is that on there? And there's my wedding photographer caught a very nice shot of me doing my speech, holding a Judge Dredd Laserdisc in the air while I was explaining it. So it just it has its own little spot in our wedding, which is just really nice.
Hey, that's lovely.
It is cute, isn't it? Yeah. So it definitely, I will apologize for this film's existence until the end of time. I know it's not very good, but yeah. So what is your previous with the film / franchise as a whole?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, so my brother, one of my older brothers, was a big comic book reader when I was a lot younger, and he was basically my route into comic books. And he was interested in 2 characters. He was interested in Dredd, and he was interested in Batman. So he even went to the extent of like becoming a subscription member of like DC Comics and getting like Detective Comics and Batman sent over from the States like every month, because he was just obsessed with it. And I would just read, not over his shoulder, but like when he was finished with an issue, I would sneak it out of his room and I'd have a read myself. And I inherited a load when he sort of decided he wasn't interested in comics anymore, and a lot of them, not all the really cool and expensive and worth a lot ones he retained, but all the ones he didn't want anymore, they came
Yeah.
my way. So I got to read loads of Batman, loads of Judge Dredd, even stuff like so the Cursed Earth series. He had the like graphic novel of that, and then read and enjoyed that sort of thing. So although I do not have an encyclopedic knowledge of Dredd at all,
Hmm.
and haven't read like 2000 AD or Judge Dredd for certainly not consistently for a very long
Hmm.
time, I have like the roots of my relationship with comic books includes 2000 AD and Judge Dredd. So a lot of really cool stuff there and sort of
Hmm.
familiarity with the character. So when Judge Dredd was coming out, there was a bit of excitement in my
Yes.
household. And we
Hmm.
were also, we all grew up absolutely loving films. That's like movies have always been a sort of love language within my family.
Yes.
And Stallone and those kind of Arnie and Stallone action movies,
Yes.
they were the ones we loved the most. So we were
Yeah.
really hot on those. So Stallone tackling Judge Dredd, it was like, oh wow, this is going to be something really
Yes.
special. Can't wait for
Yeah.
this. And then obviously it did some things well and it did some things not quite as well. But it was certainly there was a lot of hype, a lot of anticipation, and I suppose we should also say here as well that this our film club conversations, we're obviously looking to explore some of the wider impact and wider ramifications from these movies, how especially they led into Warhammer. That's
Hmm.
probably going to get a bit more tenuous as this as this series goes on because
Yes.
some of the films we want to talk about they've got relationships with Warhammer and stuff like that,
Hmm.
but it's very much about our journeys and our sort of
Yes.
like how we've engaged with these movies and the franchise and all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
But this one, although the movie doesn't necessarily have a major relationship with
Hmm.
Warhammer, Judge Dredd as a character is deeply entwined with the
Yes.
history of 40k, and I think we'll
Hmm.
probably tease out some of that stuff as we go on
Hmm.
as well. But yeah, so do you remember seeing this movie for the first time? Do you remember
Yes.
what it was like? Did you enjoy it at that time?
Yeah, I mean it's 95. I'm trying to remember how old I was. It's been a wee while. But I think at the age I was, it was I was in that territory and in that time where there were X and R-rated films that were considered okay for your kids to watch. So like your Terminators, your Cliffhangers, your Diehards, because they're just fun and entertaining. But the R and X rating comes from basically I think it's bullet penetration and F bombs used in certain contexts that give it that rating. So there were times when it was okay for kids to watch something because there was just a bit more blood and it was a bit nastier. Mum and Dad drew the line at RoboCop 2 because holy shit, that film is fucking horrific.
Right, right. But RoboCop 1 is okay.
I grew up on the ITV recut. So
Okay, yeah,
have
okay.
I told you about ITV recuts of
No,
stuff?
go on, go for it.
So I still have it on video, and I have the Die Hard one as well.
Right.
But basically, this is when terrestrial TV had enough clout to do this. But essentially, ITV recut RoboCop, so your bullet penetrations are gone, so that's half the fucking film. But they also brought the actors back in to redub swearing.
Really?
Yes. So if you've ever heard the insult airhead, the word was designed and invented for the purpose of getting a PG-13 rating because it was the only word that lip synced over asshole.
Really? What?
Yeah, yeah. So they made up the word airhead to go over asshole on the dub, so it would look natural.
Right.
So in the version I grew up on, like where can't remember his name. He's Uncle Leland in Twin Peaks, where he
Oh,
shoots
sure.
RoboCop at the end with the big anti-tank rifle. In the proper version, he says, "Got you, you bastard." In my version, he says, "Got you, you blackguard."
Right, okay, so he's old school then. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it kind of neuters that aspect of the film. And when I finally grew up and saw the proper version, I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I get it now." Um, yeah, Bruce Willis saying "Yippee ki yay, mother truckster." and all that stuff is really such a nice little time capsule. But I think Judge Dredd 95 is actually a PG-13, and it was Danny Cannon, the director, did try and get an X-rated version through, and then did some recuts to get an R rating, and then I think they basically took it off him, um, and shot some extra scenes to fill in some blanks, and then they got it down to a PG-13,
Mm.
which is, I think it's really on the edge of PG-13. There's some stuff in here that I thought that is tickling the higher end of the spectrum,
Mm.
but I think there's a sequence where Rico's in prison and he shoots the warden in the throat,
Right.
and he
Yeah.
shoots him in the back, and you do get the bullet penetration, but it's done with shadow and it's done without blood. So I
Right.
believe those are reshoots that were done without
Right.
the director's presence,
Sure.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that actually gets immediately to the heart of my challenge with this film,
hmm
which is that it is tonally
hmm
really weird, right? I mean, there's a
Yes.
few flaws. I think they try to cram like all of Judge Dredd into this one movie. They're
hmm
covering so much ground, and so the plot is kind of a bit maybe the key elements are not given room to breathe, and you get like
hmm
loads of random stuff just happening. You know, the Angel Gang just turn up for like really no reason and all this sort of
hmm
stuff.
Yeah.
But then also the tonal shifts within it are quite strange. Like you will get some quite intense, quite dark violence, like with Rico or with some of the
hmm
other stuff that occurs. But then you've also got the most ham-fisted, brazen attempt to introduce a running gag I have literally ever witnessed in film.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they thought that having Dredd always just say, I knew you'd say that. That would be like a really clever, funny, like people are going to be cheering at that by the
Yeah.
end of the movie. So that
Yeah.
happens like 6 or 7 times on different
Yes.
variations on it. And
Yeah.
every single time it is like I can just imagine every auditorium that showed the movie, just it's silence, and then you just hear a little
Yeah.
cricket in the background because it's so painful. It's really, really rough. I knew you would say that. Like that is like the terrible kids cart that Saturday morning cartoon stuff. Like it's
Yes.
rough, man.
Yeah.
It's bad. But yeah, you can very, very clearly feel, I think, the director pulling in a different direction to the
Yes.
execs. And I think the
Yeah.
execs were working at the behest of Stallone, right? Like
Yes.
he wanted it to be an accessible family.
hmm
Even though Demolition Man isn't always accessible, he wanted it to be more like that kind of thing, I think. He was sort of pulling in that direction.
100% interchangeable to a degree, those two films, which is a nice point. Um, because I really enjoy both of those films,
Sure.
Demolition Man and Judge Dredd, because you could swap discs halfway through, and I wouldn't notice. I would just be quite happy. Uh, but I think Demolition Man does have the R rating,
Right.
and that's why I think Demolition Man, even though they're very similar films, gets more fondly remembered because it is nastier, it is harder, and it is more entertaining because its tonal consistency is like, right, this is going to be an R rating. This is going to be a proper solid action blood and guts film,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, and I think it also has like Demolition Man has a narrative consistency aided by the fact that it's built around like, okay, Simon Phoenix, Wesley Snipes, he is the
hmm
villain. Yes, there are
hmm
other villains as well, but like he is the guy we're following as the
hmm
threat.
hmm
And you've got the fish out of water story with John Spartan, with Stallone. So you
hmm
get the jokes come from being a fish out of water, the threat comes from Simon Phoenix, and you're
hmm
just running the line straight down of how do you get John Spartan to find, capture, and defeat
Yes.
Simon Phoenix.
Yep.
Like it's just really nice and neat. In Judge
hmm
Dredd, you are struggling with like a couple of different plots happening at the same time because you've got the main plot is instigated by a takeover, an attempted takeover of the Council of Judges or Justices
hmm
or what have you. And you know this is going to be so a coup basically that's going to
hmm
oust Max von Sydow, who is a nice guy chief judge, and Jurgen
hmm
Prochnow is gonna who is a bad guy chief judge.
Yes.
Is going to, they're going to be the abuse of power is going to happen. So the nice guy is out. And in order to take him out, you need to threaten his like most beloved judge, which is Dredd. And they do that by bringing in his cloned brother, Rico, who's in prison.
Yes.
They're secret clones. No one knows about them, including Judge Dredd. Rico is broken out of prison to frame Judge Dredd. So Dredd gets sent to the cursed earth, sent to prison, and the Chief Justice is out. He's got to go and walk the cursed earth. And now they can Jürgen Prochnow can now enact this cloning procedure again, and they could just have infinite clone judges, and they can have martial law.
Yes.
Right? So there's a lot going on in order to achieve all of that. And that causes the film to be super messy and like kind of exposition heavy at times.
Yes.
I will take this as a tangent, actually, even though I'm in the middle of the point there. But just, it is a fundamental misread of like Dredd's world as well. Because the whole, to me at least, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but like the whole point of Dredd is that this guy is judge, jury, and executioner. He has an unbelievable amount of power. And that's a bad thing. Like, it's a bad thing that anyone can do that, can be in that position of power. So the whole system that supports Dredd, that Dredd himself is, that he represents, it is this really authoritarian, dangerous kind of fascistic society. Mega City 1 is a nightmare place to live. There's nothing good about it. And this movie is like, but when it's in the hands of the right guy, it's good though. Like having that ability to just execute people on the streets is good though. Like when it's the right, like isn't it satisfying when there's a yuppie jerk in his like Lamborghini, who's just like being a like smug, selfish, self-important guy, just blowing up his car. That's fun. He deserves it. We should be allowed to do this. Cops should be allowed to do. Like there's a real vibe of just. Okay, actually, the system's fine when the right people are in power, and the movie is about just making sure that Dredd stays at the top because he's the guy who's right to have this power.
Yes. I think some people might argue that that's a niggle, but I'm going to reinforce what you said, where I think the 50% of the problem with this film is Stallone. But 50% of the reason why it actually functions to the bare basics that it does is because of Stallone. If you replace Stallone with like a no-name actor, you have the issue of, well, everyone in this film sucks. Everyone's a bad guy. Like if you take away the clear hero identity that makes it funny that Stallone is doing Dredd, it doesn't work anymore because it's like, well, why don't we replace him with clones? This is awful. Everyone's bad. Maybe Rico's got the right idea.
Sure.
Because he's no worse than the other ones. But because it's Stallone, you are like, okay, that's my hero. Whatever he does must be slightly leaning to the positive, surely. So I think...
Yeah, I get what you mean, and I think it's a really difficult needle to thread, right? And I think that the later Dredd movie does it by concentrating on a very small scale, because you can have the bad guys in peach trees in the Dredd movie, like they need to be defeated by Dredd, and he needs to take any means necessary to do so. When you scale out and you're like, well, this is about the whole city, it's about the whole institution, and the way in which this world works, well, now any means necessary becomes like a really difficult conversation. And the film isn't actually interested in having a conversation about that. Like it doesn't really want to explore that. It just wants to explore like, oh no, our heroes, the bad guys are trying to get one over on our heroes. And the way that they try and say, so I think their nod to the idea of Dredd is actually a bad guy in the comics. Even though he's the hero of the comics and we can cheer when he wins, he's also it's understood that he is a bad guy because of who he is and his power and what he does with it. The way they nod to that is just by making him like an obnoxious jerk. So he's not actually likable. Like Stallone is great in so many movies. He's so likable as John Spartan. Like he's in Demolition Man.
Yeah.
In this, and it's not just lines like I knew you'd say that. He's just a bit mean. He's a bit cruel. He's
Yeah.
also surprisingly bad at his job of being the greatest judge ever. Like when he arrives, there's a block war going on, and he
Yeah.
arrives and he just stands in the middle of the street, right?
Hmm.
And the other judges are like, Dredd, you can't just stand in the middle of the street. And then to show that Dredd's like the best at this,
Hmm.
he reels off some spiel about, oh well, the caliber of the gun that they're using has an effective range of whatever. It's useless at this range. I can stand here with my hands on my
Hmm.
hips because it's they can't do anything to me. But
Yeah.
we the viewers of the film have literally seen them just kill people on the street from where they are.
Yes.
So like
Yeah.
we know that Dredd is wrong. So
Mhm.
Dredd's there being all arrogant and like, and again,
Yeah.
the film is not actually saying, "Oh, look at Dredd, he's an arrogant fool." The film's saying, "Look at Dredd, he's so nails, he knows." Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So like,
Yeah.
there's these kind of mismatches happening all over the place
Mhm.
that kind of don't work. Now, I've said a few negative things already, right, about this film. I'm gonna shock everyone with some hard positivity, and
Mhm.
that is that I think it looks ace. So like
Yeah, man.
the
Yeah, man.
street that Dredd is stood there in, the actual
Yeah.
block war and all that kind of stuff. Even Dredd, I really like the outfits, the costumes, and like the massive pauldrons. I think the production design on the movie is really good. Like it does look and
Yes.
feel like 2000 AD to me.
Yes. Yeah. I was kind of trying to figure out a funny like way to describe this film. Are you familiar with Joel Schumacher,
Sure. Yes.
who did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. In my head, when I was watching this, I thought this is Joel Schumacher's Blade Runner.
Right. Okay.
Originally, I thought it's Tim Burton's Blade Runner. It's not. It's Joel Schumacher's because it's firmly post 1989 Batman, which so many 90s movies are just like, our world is going to look like that. Our city is going to look like that, but with flying cars, man.
Yeah.
And this is kind of this is not that. This is Joel Schumacher's Blade Runner, which I think is a compliment because
Right.
I love the look of the worlds and the cities in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. The films, take them or leave them, whatever. They're entertaining when I was a kid.
Sure.
But the way Mega City 1 is realized in the first 20... No, I'm being too generous. The first 15 minutes of this film.
Right.
The first 15 minutes of this film, I would say, is more of a Dredd movie than the Carl Urban one. And I think...
Okay.
Yeah, man. I think if this film had carried on as it did for the first 15 minutes, it absolutely really nails 2000 AD and Judge Dredd. It's claustrophobic, it's nasty, it's dirty. It looks like every penny that was spent on it, if that makes sense. Like it justifies its budget. You've got models, you've got scale models of the city, but you've got early digital you've got refined digital comping, but you've got early CGI. So you watch this in its intended format, which is a luxury. But even in the 4K version I watched, I thought this is sensational. This is incredible. And you've got the block war. You do have some fun satire in there. You've got the recycled droid, which says recycled food is great for the environment and it's okay for you.
Yes. Yeah.
just little quips like that.
Yeah.
And you've got in-jokes landing. You've got Stallone turning up as Dredd, and with the helmet on, I think he looks perfect. He's even got he's got the wiry jumpsuit look that Dredd had in the 70s and early 80s, where he's kind of almost a 50s action hero with a sci-fi suit on top, with the almost gangly legs and the massive upper body. They've got the silhouette perfectly. I think his attitude is great. Again, in the first 15 minutes, while the helmet's on.
Yep.
And he's quite the unlikable arsehole, but could be complicated if you want.
Sure.
After that, it's a summer Stallone blockbuster film.
Yeah.
And Rob Schneider turns up and you're like, oh, fuck.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
actually, Rob Schneider unfortunately punctures that, because I agree. I think the opening visuals are bang on. So you do start with some cool model work flying in from the prison. You get I really like the like security personnel, the guards,
Yes.
who
Yep.
they kind of remind me, and I don't know if this is because I've been thinking about these guys a lot lately, but Space Marine Scouts from like
Yes.
from the 90s with the
Hmm.
cloaks over, they've got the massive pauldrons,
Yes.
but then they've got these cloaks over them as well, and they've got the
Yep.
big guns. They look really cool. I really like them. I like the
Yes.
production on those. And then, yeah, when Rob Schneider goes into Mega City 1, so it goes through the arrival lounge, as it were,
Yep.
and into the city, and they do a
Yep.
big full shot of the entire city. And it
Hmm.
does look great. And you're right, it is dirty and grimy and
Hmm.
oppressive in the right ways, but also
Yes.
because there's so much practical there as well, where they've actually built the street. I mean,
Yep.
those Range Rovers, man, they are so good. The taxi cabs, absolutely incredible. Like they
Yeah.
built like 16 or more than that even, but they built a load of them and they're driving around
Yep.
and obviously they get their money's worth from them, but they're
Hmm.
so good. Like they
Hmm.
just really do have that feel of 2000 AD and Dread for me.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it looks really cool. I'm fully bought in at that
Hmm.
point. And I think the production
100%.
design, even for the rest of the movie, there are so many elements of the production design that are great. You
Hmm.
know, I don't think they should be in the movie, but the Angel Gang all look amazing. Mean Machine looks
Yes.
so good, really, really good.
Yep.
And you know, like my boy Hammerstein, the ABC Warrior, incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I mean, they from my brief reading about this film, I know they've taken three of the graphic novels storylines and they've merged them together, and then they were like, that guy on the cover of ABC Warriors is lethal. He is so cool. Please make me a janky animatronic of that and give it a big scary voice.
Yeah.
And he's kind of thrown in, but I think even if I was like a diehard 2000 AD fan, and he's kind of not got much of a purpose to be there in like Ian Drury's junk shop, it's like when it stands up for the first time and speaks, you think that is
Yeah,
8-year-old me just feeling all kinds of feelings. That
yeah,
it's so good. It's so practical, so crunchy, so dirty.
yeah,
Yeah, just wonderful little moments that are just peppered between Rob Schneider doing funny things. It's
yeah.
it's Mandalorian and
Funny thing.
Grogu, but
Yeah.
Rob Schneider is Grogu. And I kind of he really starts to drag the film into the second half. Sorry, he drags the film down in the second half, I would say, to a degree,
Sure.
because um, it's the we don't trust the audience to sit with this moment kind of Marvel mentality that once we got a few years into the Marvel universe, it became so dreadfully formulaic, which is we don't trust the audience to sit and absorb this moment.
Mm.
So Rob Schneider's going to come in and make a joke. And there's some really nice action sequences, like the stuff with the Lawmaster that doesn't work, which is nicely set up earlier on in the film.
Yeah.
And they try and ride it out of for lack of a better word, the police station.
Yeah.
And they're free falling into the city, and he's trying to get it working, and he thumps it, and then Rob Schneider just said, "Oh, I wouldn't sit on this seat after we get off because I've pissed myself." And you're like, we just let that really nice little action sequence and flying gunfight
Mm.
pay off. And there's another moment where Judge Hershey's apartment has been raided and trashed, and you think, is she okay? Is she not okay? Because when the film lets me, I care about these characters a bit. And Rob Schneider just said, "Oh, wouldn't want to have her cleaning bill." Just
Yeah.
fucking shut up, man.
No, I think you're dead right. I think you're dead right. And actually, I mean, at the time, I remember at the time, I really hated him in this movie. Like it was I think I blamed a lot of the film's failings on him.
That's fine. Do it. Keep doing it.
Well, but I think that kind of is letting the other choices off, because this time around, I didn't find him quite as offensive. Don't get me wrong, I did not enjoy his presence at all. But he wasn't. I think the decisions that led to him being in the movie and the dialogue he has,
Mhm.
like they had already caused problems elsewhere
Mhm.
anyway. So I think even removing him doesn't solve everything. But
Mhm.
like as a character, he doesn't he adds nothing in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
you can use him as a way to exemplify Dredd's like over,
Mm-hmm.
his zeal for the law and like basically his punitive punishment. Like he really goes over the top in punishing him. He's in the
Mm-hmm.
wrong place at the wrong time. We've already seen an amount of that because Dredd is literally just like killing guys,
Mm-hmm.
because they're armed and dangerous. And then he sentences Schneider to like go to go or Scheider to go back to prison. Is it Schneider or Scheider? I forget.
It's Schneider. Don't get him mixed up with Roy Scheider.
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
I'm saying. A very different vibe. But yeah,
Yes.
so he sentences him to like 5 years back in prison for
Mm-hmm.
being in the wrong place at the wrong time, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think if that was like the extent of his involvement in the movie, then
Mm-hmm.
you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But then obviously he teams up with him again later on because they end up getting sent out to prison at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And they do two things with him. One is he's basically there for all of the major action scenes, like you say, to say inane nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But Dredd could just be in those scenes on his own. There's no
Yes.
exposition that requires Dredd to explain things to him because we're getting the exposition elsewhere. So he's just there. He just slows Dredd down and makes all of those scenes a bit more awkward. And then the other thing they use him to try and do is have somebody directly question Dredd about his his philosophy of law.
Yes.
Because the whole point being, well, you unfairly sentenced me for a crime I didn't commit, and Dredd saying, well, there's no mistakes in the law. The law doesn't make mistakes. Well, why are you here then?
Yeah.
And obviously that calls into question Dredd's entire philosophy and being. And again, this is a misread on the whole thing because you then have Dredd has to go on this like arc of getting to the end of the movie and being like, oh gosh, maybe the version of the law which I uphold in the comics actually is a bit mean and I should rethink it a touch. But you can't have that because see, Martha, she's got opinions about this.
Understandably.
But you can't have that because then you're going to end the movie with like, okay, well, I guess Mega City 1's going to have to completely change. And like Dredd is going to have to completely change as a person. And that's not really where we want the film to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of Rob in this movie.
Big Rob.
Yeah. Because he just causes problems. I don't know if you've seen any of the behind the scenes stuff. It looked quite rough actually, but on one of the earliest days of filming, it's when they're like escaping the halls of justice or something, and they run down some stairs, and they show the footage of Stallone runs down the stairs, a big action man, no problems. Rob Schneider runs down the stairs and slips and like plummets face first down like must be 10 steps onto the floor of the set, and it looks really painful. To his credit, apparently he just gets up and he's like, I'm all right, I'll be fine. But they actually normally they don't show that kind of stuff in behind the scenes, but they full on show it, and it looks rough. It looks like a real hard fall. And whilst I do not wish the man ill at all, I can't help but feeling like if he was unable to continue filming and recovered later, maybe the film would have gone in a different direction. But yes, it's a shame that his character is here because he is just an irritant that doesn't add a lot of value.
Yeah, entirely fair. Wouldn't wish any harm on the man. Would absolutely watch that a few times of him falling down the stairs quite happily. Yeah, I think because of its summer blockbusterness and its delivery mechanism that it's stuck with, it does feel like it. I think to function in its medium, it does need an everyman to ask the questions because that's the kind of film it is. I would be happy with any other everyman to ask those questions.
You'd be happy with every other man,
every other choice. Like, was Dave Chappelle not available?
I mean, there's a lot of people who could have been better, but I do think, I don't think you need. I get what you're saying about the everyman, but I think we get enough of a perspective already, from the the plot of the movie, and a lot of the stuff that then takes place beyond the world's establishing the world. A lot of it Dredd doesn't know either. So he learns about all the plotting, he learns about the clones, he learns about Rico's true heritage and all this kind of stuff. None of that, he doesn't explain a lot of that to I can't even remember what Rob Schneider's character is called. But he doesn't explain it to him. They kind of discover it together most of the time. Hershey does some cool stuff and like does a bit of actual police work, which is good to see. But yeah, I think I would have preferred if we'd had more of a Dredd has to actually work this out on his own and piece the puzzle together. I think ultimately he gets given a load of the information by like Jürgen Prochnow later on, which is quite a good scene when there's the very bizarre hierarchy and the structure of this society, which has your chief justices, and there seem to be sort of 4 or 5 of them.
Yep.
And once Max von Sydow has left, there's now just, I guess, 3 of them. I might be forgetting one. But they collectively are responsible for keeping some cloning files top secret. And only with all of their authorization can you unlock the cloning files.
Yes.
And this has been the whole plan since the beginning for Prochnow. He wants to get access to this sort of stuff. So he convinces them, like, oh, we need to let's just even have just a peek. It's a really weird conversation where he's like, oh, let's unlock the files and then we can have a little look. And then if we still are not convinced, we can lock them again. And everyone's like, yeah, okay. I don't really want to unlock them, but yeah, okay. We'll just have a little look. So they unlock them. And then in the same conversation, they all immediately go, actually, let's lock them again.
Yeah.
And that's why he kills them all. And unfortunately, Dredd arrives at that moment, so he can now be framed for their murders as well.
Yes.
But it's just that is the kind of summer blockbuster plotting where you're like, we need to get through this super quick. So we'll have the like crisis of conscience and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, all of this crap, just condense it into 2 minutes. Right. We need to open the Janus files. What are the Janus files? Cloning. It was cloning judges, making perfect judges. Okay, why do you want to open them? We've lost 140 judges in 24 hours. All right, let's have a little peek. Whew. Yeah, well, with the modern technology, we can make judges in like half an hour, man. We can have these judges replenished in 24 hours. That does sound a bit dangerous, though. What do you mean it sounds too dangerous? I think that's too much power. I think we should close the files. Actually, I think my big robot should come in and just kill you all. That's an exaggeration, but you take 2 minutes over what I just said. That's basically what happens.
Yeah, and too much power. But this is in a world where they already have that exact same level of power. Like the judges being clones makes literally no difference because all of the judges are like, I mean, we do see judges acting a little bit more like humans in this. Like they are like, some of the younger judges get scared. Some people are sad that some of the judges are died. You see the training and they are, there's like one tech bro, like smart judge guy who they bring.
He knows Photoshop. He knows Photoshop.
Who knows how to use Photoshop. So they aren't robotic judges other than Dredd. But replacing them with a load of clones, I guess it gives you more judges. But the whole point of this world is supposed to be that they have total power anyway. They will just go out and kill gangs and whatever. Yes, that's all. There will always be gangs. There will always be block wars. But judges will just put them down and take these guys out. So there's not really another level of power to attain, I guess. Yes. I mean, maybe there's a little bit, but it doesn't feel like enough of a leap to me. Yeah. For it to be like, oh, actually, that's where we draw the line, as opposed to all of this stuff we've been doing up to this point.
Yes, which I think anchors back to that earlier point we were discussing, where it's like the only moral compass we have in all this to tell us which is actually the worst evil is because Stallone has picked a side, essentially. You're on Stallone's side because he's your main character and he thinks this is not going to be a good idea, so we go with that. It's really simplifying what is so interesting about the Dredd universe is so many shades of grey, so much ambiguity and so much satire layered on top of it, which requires, I think, some investment by a viewer, which Stallone ain't got time for that. Not interested.
It's interesting to me as well because the writers of the movie, and I'm guessing this is because of the interference and the sort of dueling versions of the movie, but the writers of the films are William Wisher Jr. and Stephen E. D'Souza, and between them, like they worked on Terminator 2, They worked on Die Hard, Running Man, Commando. So like
Yep.
a lot of movies of this era. Now you could take a look at say Commando and be like, well, it's not the most complex plot or the greatest script ever. But those films are all pretty tight and they
Hmm.
all do what they do really well.
Hmm.
And most of them are fondly remembered
Hmm.
for a reason. Obviously there's also some more complicated films in their back catalogs and some stuff that weren't complete successes.
Hmm.
But it is surprising that they weren't able to find a cleaner, sort of like a neater story for Dredd that you could
Hmm.
have done. I actually, I think the Rico stuff is quite interesting. This sort
Hmm.
of evil. Maybe it's a bit of a later story.
Hmm.
To have to. Although saying that, almost every Marvel movie started with let's do an evil version of our main character. So doing that here maybe makes sense. I do think Amanda Sante is perfect casting as like a slightly different clone brother version of
Yep.
because they've given them both like false like eye contact lenses, right, to change their
Yeah.
eye colors, and that just changes Stallone's look just enough, and
Hmm.
they really do look like brothers. It's very good casting, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's got um an intensity
Oh yeah.
that is way out of control of this film.
Yeah.
Like every scene you see him in, he's dirty, he's got a load of sweat on him, and he's just firing on so much cocaine. It is everything he does is a Macho Man Randy Savage promo. He's
Yeah.
so intense, so
Yeah.
unhinged, and he's such a nice 180 degrees of a composed Joseph Dredd, which is normally what you get. Like Stallone is always clean, dry, set jaw, says a few things, and he's the polar opposite where everything is shouted and sometimes he goes quiet, and then there's just a moment of ultra violence and shouting, and then he brings it back down, and he's just out acting the film at
Sure.
every opportunity he's got.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And actually, that scene you mentioned before, when he first gets the ABC
Mhm.
Warrior, like there's an
Mhm.
intensity to that as well, where he's almost like the ABC
Mhm.
Warrior is his brother, and together they're gonna like get vengeance for what society has done
Mhm.
to them both. It's brilliant, and like a movie about those guys like that was really
Mm.
centered on that. I think could have been really really
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, he sort of ultimately has to go through the motions of like all of the other stuff that's happening in
Yeah.
this particular movie. One thing I didn't mention, actually, I do really like is the opening of the very opening of the movie. There's a
Mm.
couple of neat features.
Mhm.
One is the comic book flip. So they're flipping through all of the actual comic book pages of Dread,
Mhm.
which I think is great. And obviously
Yep.
Marvel Studios would later do. And then abandon, very sadly, because it's
Yes.
such a great I really love it. I love seeing the sort of the interaction with the comic itself. I think is a really neat
Yes.
way to go.
Yeah.
And I mean, in this movie, it doesn't quite work because of that tonal shift. But I
Mhm.
think it's a great idea. Keeping the Dredd font is really good as
Mhm.
well. The Judge Dredd
Yep.
font, and then mysteriously, there's a James Earl Jones intro voiceover,
Yes. Yes. What?
right? He's not in the movie, but he does do the like. They obviously were like, we need someone to like set this up and have a bit of
Yeah.
gravitas. But I think you easily could have. Why was he not like one of the other chief justices? Like, if you're gonna get him, like bring him in and have him do some stuff. Why did
You've
Max
already
von?
paid him. You've already
Yeah,
paid him. Just bring him in, man.
exactly. But like, why not have Max von Sydow do that intro? Like he's got enough
Yeah.
gravitas as well. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
it's an odd kind of choice.
Yes.
I mean, it's good. It's great to hear him, and it's a
Hmm.
cool like this is the dystopian future.
Yeah.
I also cool to hear. I think Alan Silvestri's main theme is great. Like the actual sort of main theme for Dread
Hmm.
and the sort of triumphant kind of like the main beat of it is really really good.
Yes. I've had the soundtrack on loop probably for about a week now.
Right, me too.
Um,
To be fair, yeah.
yeah. because I forgot how good it was. It's one of them halfway houses between. We've got a licensed soundtrack with White Zombie and The Cure on it for no reason, and
The Cure,
adding.
that's such an odd
I
choice.
know, I know. Adding to the list of my top Cure songs that The Cure don't actually acknowledge as ones they've done. Up there with "Burn" from The Crow. It's like, oh yeah, that song we did from that movie. Yeah, that's my favorite song you've ever fucking wind your neck in. Uh, and I think there's like a left field song on the album. So there's three
Okay.
licensed tracks, and then the rest of it is just Alan Silvestri kind of doing John Williams' E.T. meets Alien 3. It's weirdly baroque and gothic in places, but also it's fun adventure time. And I would be curious to see how many of his older catalogue is pretty much recycled into the Avengers, because Dredd's theme, as soon as I heard it, I was like, hang on,
Mm.
that's the Avengers theme, isn't it? Uh, and then I listened to the Avengers theme. I thought, not quite. And then got the score sheets up because we went down a whole rabbit hole of that one night. Wednesday, I think it was. Like, no, mechanically they are the same. And then I looked at some of his other stuff. Like, mechanically, that same progression where
Mm.
you've got your rise and your very slight satisfying fall. He's recycled that over and over, but
Right.
it's so good.
But it
Mechanically,
works.
it's just like, here's your hero, settle down, something's happening. It is chef excellence, and the entire soundtrack just has no chill. It is it is going all the time. The orchestra are just like, are we having a fag break? No, no, we are carrying on with this film. um, uh, yeah, it's so dramatic, it's so bombastic, it's so ridiculous, and it's everything that is great about 90s orchestral scores,
Mm.
in that the orchestra is being used. It's written well. It's written like classical music, but we have early digital production where I can hear everything. Everything is moving. Everything is lovely. Everything is satisfying. And yeah, the I think if I were to recommend a track to anyone, check out. I think it's just called Block War, and
Right.
it's on the album on Spotify, and it's got pretty much everything about the movie condensed into 6 minutes 50 or whatever. It's got Dredd's theme, it's got some action, it's got some sentimentality, and it's just a magical score, I think. Just a
Yeah.
magical score for a stupid film.
It is, but it's very, yeah, it does a good job. It does a good
Mm,
job. I think the
yeah,
block war stuff, I think the opening stuff is the best stuff. I think the production
yeah.
throughout I mean, 90% of the cast are really good. You know, like
Hmm.
we've not even talked about Diane Lane as Hershey, or Joan
Hmm.
Chen is in it as well. I think Amanda
Yes,
Sante is really good. I think, it's James Remar, one of the guys in the block war, like the leader of the block
he
war
is.
guy.
He
Like,
is.
just great actors, and Rob Schneider as well.
Hmm.
They're in this movie. There
Hmm.
is all of this cool production design. I got more out of it this time, I think,
Hmm.
than I'd sort of been left with. So it'd been many years
Yes.
since I'd watched it a number of times,
Hmm.
but yeah, it had been a while, and I think coming back to it now, there was stuff to, obviously now it's 30 years old, right? So I can't just watch this film for the first time. I'm also looking back at
Yes.
myself looking at this film. So I'm
Yep.
seeing all of that sort of stuff. But there are things to enjoy in it. Like when Dredd arrives, and
Hmm.
like, someone has said, what are you waiting for? Like, oh, we're waiting for backup. And Dredd
Hmm.
arrives and he's like, it's here.
Yeah.
And it is just like, yeah, that's Dredd. That's very good. Yeah. Yeah. With the theme as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, Hammerstein. There's the Order 66 kind of moment. You mentioned it before, when Hammerstein like stands up in the
Hmm.
actual back streets and kills a load of judges and takes a load
Yep.
out. Like, all of that sort of stuff is
Hmm.
really, really good. Um, there is a really nice line from Rico when
Hmm.
he's saying that you destroyed your life to embrace the law, and
Hmm.
I destroyed the law to embrace life. And it's like, yeah, you know what? That's great. And that works really
Yeah.
well here. And, that's kind of cool. The final fight in the Statue of Liberty. How do you feel about
It's alright. It's
that?
it's fine.
Sure.
Um, did appreciate. I mean, it's going to sound condescending, but there's also a lady fight that's happening at the same time,
Sure.
which it starts off with a bit of hair pulling and scratching, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, fuck, why? That it's a Judge Hershey should be crushing this woman, and then they bring out like a metal pipe and start hitting each other. I'm like, okay, okay, this is good. And I've got to give it props because there's a little swerve that I didn't see coming, which is Dredd is hanging off
Mm.
the edge of the Statue of Liberty, and normally in these circumstances, he would figure that out by himself, and then he would go and help Hershey and fix it, and he would save the day. Hershey actually saves his bacon,
Yeah.
which is quite interesting. She actually gets the final tag
Mm.
and gets the final pin, pretty much, which is it's not a celebrated moment. It's not really given any fanfare, but it's quite nice that it does that. Is that Judge Hershey just kind of saves Dredd?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's a fair shout. Yeah. There's
yeah.
also apparently a deleted scene that they put a load of like there's photos of it from interviews
Hmm.
in like SFX magazine or Empire at the time
Hmm.
of Dredd fighting against all of the clones. So Rico activates all of these incomplete clones, and you see in
Right.
the actual theatrical they start to wake up and arms are sort of popping, but you don't see anything more really. The fight just
Hmm.
continues between Dredd and Rico. But apparently there are a number of these clones get out and they actually has to fight them and shoot them and whatever else. So
Right,
that's
okay.
just yeah, unknown what happened to any of that stuff, but it's gone. Maybe too gruesome, maybe the
Yeah.
running time was getting too long. But yeah, I mean I think I can't help but that all that Statue of Liberty stuff just reminds me of X-Men now, which
Yes.
wouldn't be that much longer, but would take place in the same kind of space
Yes.
and something kind of similar. But yes, I think that there is we get some good robot stuff. There is a payoff for Rob Schneider, who apparently so he actually unhooks Hammerstein and makes him release Hershey so she can get involved.
Yeah.
Apparently he was going to die in the original script. And then
Oh.
in the reshoots, which you can actually tell if you know,
Mhm.
because in the reshoots, there's just a couple of cuts to him being taken to an ambulance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so tight on him on the
Yes.
stretcher, you can see nothing else. So it's obviously like they didn't want to pay any extras. They didn't want to have to do any of
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't want to integrate it more than this.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better if he died because you can also then get the thread of like Dredd doesn't care. Like he's not sad
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Because early on in the film, you get Dredd as this kind of merciless lawman where he does enact justice and he doesn't care about killing people if they deserve it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think by the time you get to the end of the movie, I think you still want some of that to be intact because he is still Dredd. He has to still
Mhm.
be a bad guy. I quite liked that he's because all of the chief justices are dead by this point. He's
Yeah.
just they offer it to him and they're like, "Can you
Yeah.
be our new chief justice?" Because I guess you don't elect them or anything. You just like pick someone on the street.
Just have a 2 minute conversation about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he says no because he wants to remain a street judge, and I quite
Mhm.
like that. I think that's quite good.
Yes.
But then you have the kiss and the sort of the motorcycling off, which is not great. There's also like a real again tonally very strange, very Batman '89, where he
Mhm.
kind of you get a silhouette of him motorcycling to the end of like a ledge of a building and kind of looking out on his city, Mega City One, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's supposed to be like your guardian, your silent guardian
Yeah. Yeah.
remains protecting the city, and that's just not quite. That doesn't quite work either for me. That
He is just going to be arresting people for parking on double yellows, though. That, he's a petty lawman at the end of the day.
He is,
But
yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
the production design is great. I think the
Mhm.
feel of it is 2008, and the reason we sort of ostensibly wanted to chat about it was because that relationship between 2000 AD and Dredd and Games Workshop, it
Mhm.
is very present in the early days of Games Workshop. They
Oh
were
yeah.
very eager to work with 2000 AD, so that
Mhm.
is why there is a Judge Dredd RPG, there is
Mhm.
a Judge Dredd board game, there's a Block
Mhm.
War board game as well,
Yes.
like Blockmania. So
Yep.
all of these actual like official Judge Dredd products
Mhm.
came out through Games Workshop. They did a range of Citadel miniatures, of course, as well.
Mhm.
And then with 40K's creation, so many, I would say the vibes of the 2000 AD world, it's in Dark
Mhm.
Future as well, but in 2000 AD, I think in 40K, you're seeing this kind of 2000 AD feel to a lot of the Rogue Trader like Imperium. It's different in a lot of ways, and obviously it's got a scale that comes from Dune and other stuff as well.
Hmm.
But that kind of satirical, merciless lawman edge, I think,
Hmm.
finds its way into things like the Space Marines. These guys, they are
Yes.
they are upholders of the Imperium's justice and
Hmm.
laws, but they are also psychopaths. Like they're not fit to have this power, and I think that to a large extent is Dredd in the early days. I think that much like the film being a good, like aesthetically good
Hmm.
and aesthetically an interesting adaptation of Dredd, but like
Hmm.
thematically missing the point. I think that's true here as well in the relationship between this film and 40K.
Yes.
Like I think aesthetically, there's a lot of things in this film that do feel quite 40K. I've talked about the guards. There's also the
Yeah. Yeah.
Judge Hunters. And Adeptus Arbites obviously are taken
Hmm.
from Judge Dredd as a character in the comics, but they feel like the Adeptus Arbites miniatures that were released in the 90s
Yes.
absolutely could just be these from this movie. There's
Yeah.
enough similarity there, I think. So yeah, there's a lot of that sort of visual parallels,
Yes.
I think, and so but maybe not influenced by, but definitely drawing on the same kind of inspirations and coming to similar conclusions.
Yeah. I mean, the DNA of them both in the 80s is so intertwined in a complex way that you can't just say, oh, they took this, because the relationship is so interconnected,
Yeah,
and then they start influencing each other as well. And it's not impenetrable, but the satire through line is quite nuanced in a lot of ways, and sometimes it's not nuanced at all. But I think they both suffer from the problem where some audience members with media illiteracy do take it literally and get the wrong end of the stick entirely.
sure, yeah,
And it's nice that I say it's nice. It's interesting that they both share that little quirk. But I think we've discussed with other films, like, and made mention of how 90s films, I think, even though they're harkening back to older stuff, obviously Warhammer is influenced massively by Dredd, but I think a lot of aesthetics do come from films of this era, and probably there's some stuff in this film that made its way. Like, I look at this film and I think, well, this film looks more like 90s up to 2000s Necromunda than the original Dread does. But then there's an industrious grittiness to 90s sci-fi.
mm,
So I wouldn't say this film inspired Necromunda because it comes out in the same year, but that movement of gritty, crunchy sci-fi definitely post Blade Runner
mm,
is what is. I think it's in 90s Games Workshop DNA for sure,
yeah, yeah. I think
100%.
that's it, right. I think that crunchiness as well, that physical, like because so much of it's
Mm,
tangible and has been built. I
hmm.
think that is a key factor as well to that kind of
Hmm.
relationship because you had to build sets and you had to build all these amazing spaces like these
Hmm.
these hive city spaces
Hmm.
using physical things and taking things from the real world and then like making it into a
Hmm.
futuristic city. And I think that kind of you can see that almost in Necromunda's like all of the terrain and stuff like that they create for that. It feels very much like the industrial,
Hmm.
like the setting. You mentioned RoboCop earlier.
Hmm.
Like there's a RoboCop vibe to the Necromunda actual
Yes.
terrain that you get in the
Hmm.
Necromunda box because that's where they filmed just in abandoned warehouses and stuff, right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
so
yeah,
you kind of get
yeah.
that sort of feel of like we're going to use all of these pipes and all of these bits of metal work and all these
Hmm.
bulkheads are going to be real things from real factories that we're just going to
Yeah,
glue together or weld
yeah.
together, and that's then what is created at a smaller scale for
Hmm.
Necromunda. So yeah, it definitely has that feeling of place.
Hmm.
Is very very similar, and maybe I mentioned I was talking about the aesthetic sort of the way this movie has interpreted Judge Dredd, and it
Hmm.
has some of the satire. It's got trace elements, right, that it's brought
Hmm.
across, but it's moved away to a much more accessible product, a much more family friendly product, and
Hmm.
that's kind of I'm sure an argument could be made, and I don't know that we've got time to explore it now, but an argument could be made that that's been 40K's own journey
Yes.
reinterpreting itself. You go from
Mm.
Rogue Trader as an equivalent to the Judge Dredd comics that this movie is adapting.
Hmm.
Later editions of 40K are aesthetically adapting what they've seen in earlier editions, but you only get the trace elements of the satire, and things are
Hmm.
sort of smoothed out, made more accessible.
Hmm.
You kind of make it a little bit more family friendly in a way, and you
Yeah.
kind of get the iconography and stuff like
Hmm.
that. The visual stuff remains the same, and it's
Hmm.
kind of like, oh, that's a cool reinterpretation of this thing we
Yes.
saw in the 80s. But we're gonna sort of we're gonna make it a bit softer and a bit
Yes.
friendlier in some ways, right?
So what you're saying is modern 40K has become the 1995 Judge Dredd of its own universe. Is what you're saying, mate? Is that the rage bait you're dropping on me right now?
I think that someone smarter than me could make an interesting video essay about that. Yes.
Yes. I do have some fun Dredd trivia if you would
Oh,
like
I would like
to,
very
to
much.
to potentially wrap up. I think we're
Sure.
wrapping up steadily.
Mm.
Um, so I couldn't get confirmation on it because Google was giving me all kinds of different information that I didn't want, even though I specifically wanted something. But I was curious why Judge Dredd is spelt the way it's spelt.
Right.
I don't know if you know this, but there is a late 60s and into the 70s British white reggae and ska artist called Judge Dredd.
Right. Right.
And he's just a big inoffensive looking dude who makes reggae music. He was the first white artist with a reggae hit to get #1 in Jamaica.
Right.
To his credit, his music is all right, but he is called Judge Dredd, spelt correctly. And from what I've read, they had to spell the 2000 AD Dredd differently to dodge that bullet.
Okay. Right. So you can't. I mean, but that's also quite fun. I mean, that definitely
Yeah, yeah.
speaks to Games Workshop as well. Of like, well, we're going to
Yes.
borrow this thing that exists, but we'll nibble around the edges. We'll change a couple of letters.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's great.
It's quite cute. It was a nice little find that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a bit of trivia as well regarding the
Ooh.
taxis that I love so much.
Hmm.
So, I lived in Manchester for a long time.
Hmm.
One of the actual taxis from the movie is, I believe, still visible in someone's driveway just outside
Yes.
Manchester city
Yep.
centre. And I've
Yes.
driven past it many times. So it literally is just sat there overgrown. It is
Hmm.
the actual yellow taxi cab
Yes.
that we see a lot of times in the movie. It is incredible. I mean, it's just a fiberglass like construction over the top of like a Range Rover
Hmm.
chassis, right? But I think they did such a good job with it. I really, really
Yeah.
like them. So yeah, very cool to see like one of the actual originals
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
just sat there idling near Manchester city centre, which is great.
Just slowly rusting. No
Yeah.
longer roadworthy, sadly, because I mean, replace the Hackney carriages with those.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. I also was certain, so I went and did a little bit of research. It was a great excuse. This I went and watched a load of Spice Girls music videos after watching this movie again because
Oh,
I
bit of spice up
remembered.
your life, mate.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In my recollection, the taxi cab also features in one of the Spice Girls music videos, and
Yes.
Mel B is sort of, I think it's Mel B is stood on it. She's singing,
Hmm.
and you see the cab. I could not for the life of me find which Spice Girls video this was. So
I think I know the one, mate. 1 second.
I thought it was like people of the world, spice up your life, and so on
Yeah,
and so
it
forth.
is that one, isn't it?
Right,
Is it
that's
not
what
in
I
that?
thought it was because that's set in a dystopian future world. Unless I missed it when I watched it, I did not see the taxi cab. So I don't know. I maybe I watched a different cut. Maybe the version on YouTube has changed or something like that. But very strange, very strange.
You're right. That is going to be harder to. Have you Googled Spice Girls Dread Taxi?
I did Google that, yes.
Now, this is a whole new rabbit show. Is this a stage show where people impersonate the Spice Girls on top of Hackney carriages?
Now that I didn't come across that.
That 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 is possibly more niche than what I was looking for. That's incredible.
So they're actually on the Dread Taxi. That's what
No,
they
no,
call it. Oh well,
they're
no,
on.
okay. So this is because yes, this was the at the 2012 Olympics, the Spice Girls reformed and performed on top of a fleet of Hackney carriages at the actual show to celebrate Britishness. So they needed to get that into a single image, and it turned out to be 5 taxi cabs and the Spice Girls. So yes, that does complicate Google searches now.
Well, there we go.
Yeah,
We've more questions than we had when we started.
but in summary, there is, there's a lot of DNA. There's a big relationship between Warhammer and Judge Dredd, which we didn't really explore very much.
Not even going to try.
But we did explore the movie Judge Dredd from
Yes.
1995, and I think I can understand why you've got a lot of love for it. I have. There are definitely things I enjoy about it, and it's of a type of cinema that I love a lot. The kind of that. This is really the dying embers of, I think, this type of film, right? I think what I've taken to calling it the Planet Hollywood era of movies, and I think you see it through the late 80s into the early 90s, mid 90s, I guess. Demolition Man might even be the peak of this type of cinema. It's typified by Stallone, Arnie, Willis, Snipes, a few others as well.
Don't forget Seagal, mate.
I mean, maybe he's stood in the doorway trying to get in. Yes, perhaps, right? But it's like high concept, matched with the sort of big macho male star, big budget for the time. And yeah, I think that and I think it's a direct comparison, right? If Demolition Man is the peak and this is now on the slide, Judge Dredd sort of represents we're still trying to do films like that, and we can't keep making them like that. And I think over the next 5 years, by 2000, by when did The Matrix come out? 99, maybe.
Yeah,
that marks the actual death knell. There'll still be more films with those guys in them, but they will no longer. The Planet Hollywood era is truly dead by the time of The Matrix. But I think it's on its way out from here, more or less. I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. And we're kind of we're oversaturating and we're overstretching the sci-fi bubble that is kind of post Star Trek Next Generation, because after that you have some of the best and you have some of the worst sci-fi, and I adore the fusion of like nuts and bolts action cinema like this with sci-fi, and sometimes it works and sometimes the other side of the coin doesn't, and by 2000 and 2001 it is just crawling over the finish line because of the sheer amount. Like, Stargate's got it so right at that point in time, and everything else is just not working. It's just not working, and it doesn't have its identity anymore. I can't name any names because I've watched a lot of like early 2000s sci-fi, and I've just been where's the guts? Where's the seams? Where's the imperfection? It's distilled into just whatever, man. Apart from Jason X, obviously.
But yeah, I think for better and for worse, this is maybe one of the closing films of a certain type of movie. And yeah, there are highs and there are lows. It kind of it has the best and the worst of that era of filmmaking in it. And I think if you've got nostalgia for that, then there's still things to enjoy here.
Yes.
And some good science fiction nonsense for the most part, right?
Would you give it a recommendation that people have another go on it and just sit back and enjoy it from a different perspective?
I'm a bit conflicted. I don't know that I would give it like complete recommendation credentials. And that is because there's just a few rough edges that still are a bit annoying. That said, knowing that we were going to be having this conversation, it gave me an excuse to watch it, and I was happy about that, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
like, I would recommend, I think, that everybody create their own film podcast that they're then going to talk about Judge Dredd 1995. So
Yeah,
then
yeah.
there's like an added value to rewatching it.
Yes. You get something more out of it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I did enjoy like just seeing the city again, seeing the
Hmm.
robots, seeing some of the costumes and some of that
Hmm.
stuff. You know, the Angel gang and those guys.
Hmm.
Seeing those things again, they did live up to my memory of like how good they were, and
Hmm.
they're just better than the rest of the film. Is the thing.
Yeah.
So I think it depends what your mileage is. I watch on purpose. I watch a lot of bad films. So
Yes.
like I don't regret watching this, and I would even if
No.
we weren't going to have this conversation, I wouldn't have regretted watching it. It would have been a fun night for me
Hmm.
because I'm just into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're like that, then absolutely give it another look. If you're like, oh, I only want to watch good movies, then probably not. Would
If you
you?
ever told yourself, I only watch good movies, you haven't. You only you think a little bit too highly of yourself.
Yeah, probably. I mean, would you like out? Can you step outside your own like nostalgic love for the movie? Like,
Hmm.
besides that, would you recommend it to folks? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very forgiving with films I watch. Like I tend to be quite confusing with my ratings of stuff.
Right.
So I'll say, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Is like, well, if you enjoyed it, how is it a 5 out of 10? Because like I was entertained. It's not very good, but I was entertained.
Sure.
Like last night, I watched Seagal's Fire Down Below, which is
Right.
which sounds like a bluey, doesn't it? It sounds like a it sounds like an elevated Pornhub special.
Sure.
But it's pish and it's bollocks, and it is at the tail end of where these movies just don't work anymore.
Mm.
But me and my wife sat and watched it. We've never seen it before. We had a laugh. We knew exactly what was going to happen, and by the end of it, my wife is in tears of laughter at the film's resolution. And it's a 5 out of 10 film, maybe 4.5. But that if you can switch your brain off and
Yeah.
just have some flashing lights and some random violence and shouting. Yeah. I would recommend this film as just switch off and enjoy it. It's a summer blockbuster, and it does not, for me, fail in that. It fails at a lot of other things, but it does not fail at being a summer 1995, a July 95 film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair. I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's... Right. Well, I think, we've probably talked as much as any two men can talk about Judge Dredd 1995 now. So we should probably call
We should bring in a third man to talk more.
Well, I mean, if Hector's about and he's got any opinions, I could see if Martha wants to come back and give any more thoughts.
Maybe they should have their own podcast. They can talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. They would enjoy that, actually. I think people would get a lot out of that. But until then, we'll have to call it, right? I think this is where we'll walk away from Dredd. We'll put it back in the old cabinet. Did you watch it on Laserdisc, by the way, or did you what format did you watch?
No, I didn't. I watched it in like a 4K remaster thing. I think it was a fan remaster,
Right.
Because I don't think there's an official 4K one.
Sure. Okay.
Because I had to watch it while I was working at the same time. I have seen it on original format Laserdisc. I've seen it on VHS. It looks even better on a CRT because that's its intended medium. Everything just blends a little bit more nicely. But the 4K version knocking around, if you can find it, and the 1080 version, yeah, man, I think they hold up. They look good.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Okay. Well, it turns out there was even a little bit more we could wring out of our Dredd talk.
There we go. Yeah.
A little bonus for folks. But yeah, that's been good stuff, man. I think we'll be back soon with more Warhammer Film Club, right?
What we back soon with? Do you want to tease it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, it's interesting because there's a few points in this discussion just around a certain type of film where I think you can kind of argue, like, so it is robot focused. It is dusky dystopian future focused.
Yes.
It is of this kind of era, but much lower budget, right? And it's got to do more with less. And arguably, it succeeds, I'd say.
Yes, a better film made for probably about 150 million less.
Sure, yeah.
Made for 20 quid. Yeah, yeah. And does a better job and probably feels more 2000 AD. And we are going to explain why in that episode because of some various legal issues. Yes. So yeah, coming up next will be Hardware Mark 13, which is a Richard Stanley classic, debatably,
Mhm.
from, is it 89 or is it
Something like that.
91?
Yeah,
I
I
get,
forget off the top of my head.
yeah,
Yeah,
I get that and Dust Devil back to front, but I think
sure.
Dust Devil is 89, Hardware is 1990.
Right, that
Yes.
would make sense because yeah, Dust Devil's first, I think, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So something to look forward to, folks.
Yeah, buddy.